Let's move to MotoGP now. We'll do Moto3 at the end because that's the way it went in the rundown as well, didn't it? I mean, this is something that happens at the British Grand Prix every single year. And let's start by talking about that and we'll go on to the crowd size as well. But we're talking about just the British Grand Prix as a event. Jump in the comments. There will be, I have a lot of British, obviously, viewers and listeners and whatever. You can't find me on, I upload all the audio of this to Spotify now, and I don't know if it goes to Apple Music as well, I guess. Yeah, I just use one of them RSS feeds. It just goes wherever. So if you only have time to listen, go do that. So all my listeners and watchers, I do have quite a lot of Brits. Please tell me either A, what's keeping you away, or B, why you think others are staying away. And while you think about that and type that in the comments, I'll quickly go into why does the British Grand Prix run, I think it was the year that I went, the Moto2 went last. This year the Moto3 went last. I could be wrong. Correct me if I am. I was there in 22, I think it was. 23? How long has it been since I've been there? Maybe 22. So the MotoGP is always the second race of the day. Is this just purely to be a 2 p.m. race start in Europe, like every other race? Is that it for the MotoGP? Is that why they do it? Because if it is, just don't. Because we do so many races in Asia and all that don't end up a 2 p.m. race start in Europe. Is this whole Moto3 last or Moto2 last, whatever they do it each year, is this just to be a 2 o'clock race start in thingy? Because I think it takes a bit out of the weekend. I mean, when I was there, it really was flat after. Like, you want people to, like, come and stay, and, you know, they have Jake Bugg on, you know, and if you're a fan of Jake Bugg like I am, I would have loved to have been there this year. I didn't know he was playing. Maybe could have been able to get me there to get a free Jake Bugg concert out of it. But again, most people are probably, even if Jake Bugg's on later and they think, oh, he's all right, I might go stay and see him. Mate, you're going home after MotoGP, aren't you? If you're not one of those people that watches Moto3 every week, I know sometimes people, when you support, you know, Formula One or whatever, like, I don't watch F2 when I watch Formula One. But with bikes, obviously, I grew up watching 125, 150, so I still watch Moto3 and Moto2. It's more a part of the weekend. But some people don't see it that way. The more casual watchers and things like that might be like, well, I've seen the big dogs, I'm going home. Like, this is what I came for. It's what I paid for. So it takes a bit out of the weekend, I think. Nothing better than a long build-up. You get 3 races throughout the day. You might have some support races. I don't know can't remember what support races they might have had at Silverstone when I was there. But I know at Phillip Island every year it was like Australian Superbikes, Australian, you know, 300s or something. You know, there was always other races as well. So, sorry, just adjust my... So I think it flattens the weekend a little bit for me. Takes away from the spectacle a little bit. Takes away from the build-up and the day. You know, getting in early. Moto3's at, what would it be? 10, 11 maybe? Moto2 at just after 12 till 1, then an hour gap, 2 o'clock start for MotoGP. Just do that. Just do that. Please. Okay, now that we've said that, tell me about, have you put in the comments yet what you think is going on with the numbers in the crowds? I don't know the actual attendance numbers, but I do remember, who tweeted it? Like Keith Ewan or something? Let me have a look. It looked dire. That's like, can I just say, it's like Phillip Island numbers. And I don't want to disparage Phillip Island and the Aussies getting out to Phillip Island at all, but Phillip Island is 2 hours drive from Melbourne. It's not easy to get to. There's one bridge on and off the island. It's a nightmare. If you're the kind of person who's like, I don't want to sit in traffic on Sunday night for 3-4 hours trying to get off an island, it's enough to keep people away. Also, Australia is a smaller population country, so we're not expected to have as many people turn up to a small island to watch a race. And even if you're coming from interstate, Sydney, Brisbane, Adelaide, whatever, Hobart, you've got to get to Melbourne and then get a 2-hour drive. 2-hour drive from Melbourne. Like, it's not an easy event to get to. I can imagine it even puts off a lot of, if you're coming from overseas and you're like, I want to go to Phillip Island one day, it's one of the great circuits, blah, blah, blah. And you looked at what it took to get there, I imagine you would just be like, nah, maybe not. Quite possibly, without being to all Grand Prix. It must be one of the hardest to get to on the calendar. Must be one of the hardest to get to. I mean, I can't think of one I've been to that was harder to get to than Phillip Island. Silverstone's easy to get to because I get it's not ideal, but you can get to a nearby town like Northampton, Milton Keynes on a train quite easily from almost anywhere in the country. And then there's like bus services and stuff. Like you can do it. And people go there for Formula One in outrageous numbers. So I know it's Formula One is a much bigger deal, but you know what I mean. So it's obvious that you wouldn't get as many people at Phillip Island, but these were like Phillip Island numbers. Is it simply so bad this year because it was in late May instead of in August or July? Because the numbers haven't been great then either from memory. So where are we on this? Let me see what the numbers were. Total 99,000. But only 40,000 there on Sunday. What is keeping people away? What's keeping you away? I'm going to try from now on, because I always went to Phillip Island as my local Grand Prix. I went every single year. Lucky enough to have lived not too far from the circuit. And I had family that lived 2 minutes up the road from it, so I had free accommodation. So I get that it was easy for me to do that. But I'm going to start treating the British Grand Prix as my local Grand Prix, and I'm going to try and treat it the way I always treated Phillip Island. And I want to be there almost every year from now on. If I can get there. Obviously with more, the other part of that was because it was so hard for me to go to an international Grand Prix, I never went to any. So Phillip Island was the only Grand Prix I had an opportunity to go to, so it's easy. But now I have opportunities to go. Like I'm going to Brno later in the year. I went to Le Mans last year. I've been to Assen before and Jerez and Barcelona. So without sacrificing, an international Grand Prix in Europe for me, I do want to start trying to get to Silverstone every year and just try and make it a thing that I'm going to all the time. But why don't you do that? Tell me in the comments, please, all the Brits. And if you have been considering going to Silverstone, maybe you're from Spain, or maybe you are Australian and you're coming over on a holiday and you want to pick a Grand Prix or two to go to, or maybe you're Italian or whatever. Americans, tell me. If you were like coming over to Europe or whatever, and you're like, I'm going to go to an international Grand Prix this year while I'm away, or if you're from Europe and you're like, I want to go to another Grand Prix that isn't in my country, why isn't it Silverstone? Why isn't it Silverstone? The UK is just too expensive. I get that. That's why I like going on holidays to places like Poland and Czech Republic and stuff. It's just like, I get more bang for my pound over there. So I get that as well. Just a little question. I think it's so interesting. A country with so much heritage and love for motorcycles and motorcycle racing. I think the best domestic competition in the world is the BSB. And then you've got things like over, in the area, Isle of Man, over in Northern Ireland. The Northern Irish are mad for it. Like, why aren't you coming over? Are you not going to Silverstone? Would you rather just go to Superbikes, or do you just enjoy your Northwest 200 and your Isle of Man TT? Is that more your jam? Tell me what's going on. Is it simply because there's not a Brit in MotoGP? Because I'm telling you, you might get Dixon in there one day, but you're a long way off having anyone worth watching in there, to be honest. He's not going to win anything. That's harsh, but you know what I mean? It's not like you've got like a potential title contender coming through, are you? So, it's like, again, the big time in Australia when the crowds are big is McDowell, Casey Stoner. That's when the crowds were massive. So I know maybe you need a title contender to convince you to go. I know that happened in Australia. I went every year anyway, but some people were like, I want to watch Casey Stoner win for like the 6th time at Phillip Island, which is great. But is that what you're waiting for? Because you could be waiting a while. Just go. You're not going to see it.